Okay, Hillary, just a little synopsis of what I found today, and also a couple tips of what may be helpful as you work with Savannah going forward in your riding program. I want to begin, first of all, with complimenting you, because I can feel in her body you've done a beautiful job with the work that you've done thus far with her. Some old areas of tightness that tend to surface with Savannah have dissipated, and I'm not finding those today. So kudos to you for your beautiful riding and your beautiful training, because I can feel the difference literally in her body today. As far as she's concerned, all of her carrot stretches today, so I had her bend her head and neck to the right, to the left. I had her bring her chin in towards her chest. I had her do the bowing stretch between her legs. I had her stretch her head, neck out in extension. She did all of those beautifully today. She had full ranges of motion. She didn't have any difficulty performing any of those, and she could hold them all for me. She didn't just do them quickly and snap her head and neck back. So that's a really good start. I did notice in her pole on the right side, she has a small amount of congestion in her pole on the right side. It didn't translate down to her jaw or her cheek. They still felt quite supple. What I did find is she had some tension in her left cheek in particular. So I'm not sure if under saddle, if she gets a little leaning or heavy or pulley or extra chewy or something on that left side. But I can feel that she does tend to hold through her cheek muscles on that left side. That being said, she also had a knot up behind her halter on the left side as well. Again, another indicator that she holds through the neck partially and the jaw partially through that left-hand side. Coming down through her neck muscles, one more piece to mention, her lower neck muscle here that comes down, it helps to open and close her jaw, and it also helps bring this whole shoulder on the left side forward. I feel like she uses this left shoulder in particular when she can as a bit of a crutch, that she may overload it with her body weight and overload the joints. I feel like she may lean on it and pop it. I also feel like she pulls herself around with it. And I feel like these sorts of habits maybe surface when she's tired or fatigued. Also perhaps when you're teaching her something brand new and she feels that there's new work to be involved and she wants to sort of revert to an old habit, those sorts of things. The other piece to that is I could feel in this left shoulder, the front of her shoulder, the deltoid muscles, the muscles that allow her to reach, open, extend her step, lengthen her step. She was tight through there, but she was actually tighter through the back of her shoulder, through the tricep muscles, and also down here in these extensor muscles. And those help her not only reach her elbow forward, her knee forward, but they also pull everything back and up. So this sort of retraction motion over here. So I do feel that she does lean and sort of tip, if you will, onto this left shoulder. And I feel like part of that response is coming from her right hind leg, because I could feel some tightness in her right hind leg today, which we'll talk about in just a few seconds. I just don't want to skip too far ahead. Her right shoulder doesn't indicate those sorts of things, that she's leaning on it. I did feel in the back of her right shoulder, her tricep muscle, again, that retracts everything, pulls everything up and back. She did have some tightness through there. Again, telling me that she's lifting through both of her shoulders more than she has in the past, that she's starting to really lift instead of just lean down on them. I feel like she's starting to find maybe some lightness on the forehand, maybe some better balance on the forehand, so she's not just diving down and being heavy. She's actually starting to lift and carry herself through her shoulders. That's what those muscles are indicating to me today, which is all good, of course, and lovely and correct. When I come to her back, her upper back, so just behind her withers, it's very soft and supple. And then when I come to her lower back, so just behind where your saddle lies, just behind the saddle, I do feel that she has some entanglement, again, on the right side. That will make it harder for her to bring her right hind leg forward, to track up, to engage, and even to push off of that. You'll even feel a little bit of a loss of power. You may notice it particularly in her left lead canter. may have a harder start in the transition, and then even the actual canter itself may have less rhythm, less consistency, less push, less thrust, and again, less power coming from that right hind. I wanted to mention, this is exciting for me, her rib cage is really supple today on both sides, and I haven't felt that in her in quite some time, and truthfully, I don't know that I've ever felt it to this degree today. So fabulous work with her rib cage. She tends to have some sticky areas on this left side between her 17th and 18th rib, so the last part of her rib cage, the last two ribs by her pelvic area, and today it's not like that. It's unbound, so I'm really excited about that because that's a new finding for her in the correct direction, which again tells me that through your work they are able to start to undo and unbind her rib cage. So I wanted to point that out because that was a really exciting piece for me to find today, having known her for quite some time. Her pelvic area, all around her pelvis, feels very good. The ball and the socket of her hip joints, they both feel very good, including the right. It's more loose and it's more free than it has been in the past. Coming back over to that right hind leg, it's the hamstrings. She has 3 sets of hamstrings, just like we do. Her hammies, they're a little tight on that right side, so those allow her to bend her stifle on the right. They also allow her to extend her hip, her hock, and her stifle forward, so she starts to reach and create length on that right side, and she's a little tight through there. So again, you may notice a shorter step, you may even notice a toe drag. Also, you may notice that when you're working with her, she wants to take her right hind leg and have it drift off to the side and not have it behind her or underneath her. Have it be a little off to the side and even sometimes a little disconnected, a little too far back, not quite underneath her on that right side, where she doesn't have those findings on the left side. The left side is more free, more supple, tends to be a bit more strong at this point. So I have a few thoughts just to sort of introduce to help her out with these particular targeted areas today. One is on the ground. It's a carrot stretch, and actually Lisa and I have reviewed it as well, and I was able to see imaging at Tufts last winter when I went there for a continuing education clinic on back issues, and this was a wonderful simple exercise to strengthen the back, which of course is a piece of what we all want to do as she continues forward in her work. And all you do is you take a treat on the ground and you stand back here and you hold the treat right behind her elbow, right where the girth lies, so that she has to bring her head around and into where the elbow is. So it's right here. So it's not farther back like more sort of traditional carrot stretches. It's much tighter. And by keeping your hand right behind her elbow, right where that girth goes, when she reaches back and in tight like that, it stretches the outer back muscles tremendously, and it contracts these inner back muscles tremendously. So they start to stretch and they start to strengthen. And they had talked about it, the vet at Tufts, of doing it 2 to 3 times per week, 3 times on each side, sort of similar to human stretches, and trying to hold it for 5 seconds each repetition. And we saw the imaging, we saw the ultrasounds of the back muscle and tissue before that exercise was implemented, and then after. You could literally see the growth, the enlargement of the muscle in the back. So it was pretty fascinating, and it was an easy thing to do. A couple pieces under saddle. I think it would be wonderful to start. And you may be doing some of this, these are just my thoughts from today, but some halt transitions where we have her walk, halt, walk, and also with the trot involved as well. So trot, halt, trot. So if we could start mixing some of those in, or if you've already started that, if we could incorporate those transitions a bit more frequently, more often, adding those halt transitions, walk, halt, walk, trot, halt, trot, that would be helpful. That helps strengthen her abdominal muscles, which then helps her raise and lift through her back, and also her loin muscles to help her bring her hindquarters under. Those pieces all become stronger with those sorts of transitions. The other piece is, if you have any sort of object, whether it's a cone, a block, a bucket, anything at all, but putting an object down in the arena and then walking and trotting her around it with a longer inside rein than you're sort of used to or accustomed to, and having her start to bend at the walk and push her out off of your inside riding leg, Of course, not allowing her to fall out with your outside rein and your outside leg there. And having her start to really bend and stretch as she's going around that object at the walk and at the trot. In a sense, we're sort of recreating the human version of this. So it starts to open and separate the rib cage, stretch the back. Any lateral tension in the back starts to dissolve just by making those repetitive circles. And you can make them a little smaller, a little larger, a little medium. You can vary them. You can spiral those in, spiral those out, all around the one object in the arena at the walk and trot with a longer inside rein, a good amount of inside bend, a good amount of inside leg, so she starts to really shape and stretch at the same time, shape and stretch, and then pushing her forward so the outside aids are nice and close and not letting her just pop out. That would be helpful. And then the last piece that I thought, I'm not sure if she's doing any leg yielding yet, and of course I'm not looking for perfect dressage scores here. It's just the idea that she moves her body in a different manner. So my thought would be to do a little bit of a leg yielding exercise in that, so she sort of walks or trots down the long side, either or, whatever you're both comfortable doing with this phase of her training. And then she leg yields over several steps. For example, she leg yields over 3 steps. Then you ask her to extend her walk or extend her trot for several steps. Bring her back, collect the walk and collect the trot, and then leg yield her back out the other direction. So she's walking along, for example, leg yields over several steps, extends the walk several steps, collects the walk several steps, and then leg yields back out the opposite way. And that can be in the walk, and it can also be in the trot. That would be helpful for her as well. So those are my thoughts for today. I hope that they sort of correlate with what you're feeling. She was excellent today for her treatment. She's very light and very happy. And again, lovely work that you're doing with her.